Hi, today I'd like to show you how to correct a cable that's been crossed the wrong direction when knitting brioche cables. So to do this, you're going to need two double-pointed needles or another set of needles in the same size as your working needle. So here I'm working with a size 8 and these are both size 8 needles. And you'll need a needle in a smaller size. So this is a size 5. You'll also need a cable needle or a locking stitch marker is what I prefer to use. So you can see on my swatch here, my cables are all leaning to the left except this top one, which is leaning to the right. So we need to correct that so that it's also leaning to the left to match the other cables. So you can knit across to where you find your mistake, or I'm just going to slip stitches until I get there. Almost there. Okay. So the next 3 stitches are the stitches involved in the mistake cable. If you're not familiar with how to knit brioche cables, I recommend that before you dig into fixing them, you go watch my videos on how to knit brioche cables. So the first step of fixing this is removing the mistake. So we're going to drop the 3 stitches that have the mistake off of the needle and start pulling the stitches out carefully. So I like to pull just straight up as I am removing these stitches so that I keep the organization of the strands of yarn relative to each other on the edges the same, and I'm not changing that. If you do get it messed up, it can easily be fixed later, but it's nice not to create extra work for yourself. So I've now removed the miscrossed cable, and I'm going to use my smaller double-pointed needle to pick the stitches back up so that I'm not applying too much tension on them and they don't run down. So I've got them back in. I am now going to transition them to a double point of the same size as what I'm working with. You don't have to do this. You can work off of the smaller needle, but I find that this can help not have my needle slide out by accident. Okay. If you have not seen my video on picking up a dropped stitch, this uses the same basic principles as that, and that's a great place to start in understanding how to work brioche back up. So that's a great thing to look at first. So the first thing we're going to need to do is work across with a pink strand to recreate the cable in the right direction. So we need to identify which strand of pink yarn we want. So I'm going to come over to the edge and find the lowest strand of pink. And you want to make sure, to me, the most important thing in not making more mistakes as you are correcting things and working your way back up is looking at how the strands relate to each other coming out of those edges. So you see that this pink strand is forming the yarn over for the stitch that's the last stitch still on my original needles, and you want to make sure to maintain that on both sides, which means that the pink needs to come behind the green. So I had maintained that by being careful as I was pulling my stitches out, but if that had gotten twisted, you would need to put the pink behind the green again. So now I'm going to work my left leaning cable. Grab my other double pointed needle and work my cable without a cable needle. And now this last stitch you're going to need to put back onto the left needle, which is going to have nothing on it, so it's a little bit awkward. And finish up knitting with that loop of yarn. Oops, my needle popped out. There we go. So I now have my cable leaning to the left as I do with all my other cables in the swatch. And now we need to continue working up the rest of the strands to get back to knitting where we were originally. So next I need to work a strand of green. So again, look at the edge, find the lowest strand of green, work your slip-on yarn over, brioche purl, and the way I hold my yarn, you can see that this last stitch formed its yarn over already. If it doesn't do that for you, form your last slip-on yarn over. Now we just need to knit these last 2 strands. So you can see here now the pink has come out from behind the green. So we need to make sure that we still have this yarn over. So if I just started knitting with the pink how it is, I would no longer have a yarn over associated with that stitch. So it needs to come behind the green. So now you can see that yarn over there. Now let's work this across. So we knit, slip 1 yarn over, and brioche knit. And now just to work that last green row, I'm going to bring the yarn to the front, slip 1 yarn over, brioche purl. This can be a little bit fiddly, as these little loops can be a bit tight, and slip 1 yarn over. So I've now worked all my stitches back up, and I can return the work to the original needles. Can be a little bit, your tension can be a little bit fiddly, but that should be easily fixed with blocking. So you can see now the mistake has been fixed, and I have all of my cables leaning to the left. I would just need to slide my stitches back onto the left needle to continue knitting. I hope this helps you be a little bit less intimidated by working brioche cables, and know that if you do make a mistake, you can fix it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this useful.